Hello, good day viewers. Welcome to another biology presentation. So in this presentation, we are going to answer 10 multiple choice questions based on gaseous exchange in humans. So this is our part 1 of the video. Ensure that you look for part 2. Okay, so let us now look at the questions. So here is our question 1. Our question 1 reads, where does the primary gas exchange in humans occur? A. Bronchi, B. Trachea, C. Alveoli, D. Bronchioles. So first of all, we need to understand what gas exchange is. So gas exchange in humans is just the process of exchanging oxygen and carbon dioxide between the lungs and the bloodstream. So here what happens is that when air is being absorbed from the atmosphere, it passes through the windpipe, okay, and then it will go to the lungs. Okay, so let's look at this diagram right here. So here we have the air passages, the nose and the mouth. That's where air will enter from and it will pass through the windpipe and then it will go to the alveoli. So we have the bronchioles right here. So at the end of these bronchioles, that's where we are going to find the alveoli. So the alveoli, these are just tiny air sacs at the end of the bronchioles. So these alveoli, they are just branches of air tubes in the lungs. Okay, so the alveoli, this is where now the lungs and the blood exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide during the process of breathing in and breathing out. So to answer our question, where does the primary gas exchange in humans occur? A. Bronchi, B. Trachea, C. Alveoli, D. Bronchioles. So this occurs in the alveoli. We now come to our question 2. Our question 2 reads, what is the primary respiratory pigment responsible for carrying oxygen in the blood? A. Hemoglobin, B. myoglobin, C. cytochrome C, D. chlorophyll. So the primary respiratory pigment responsible for carrying oxygen in the blood is C. hemoglobin. So we now move on to our question 3. So here is our question 3. Which of the following processes drives the diffusion of gases across the respiratory membrane? A. Active transport, B. Facilitated diffusion, C. Osmosis, D. Simple diffusion. So we are looking at the process that is able to drive the diffusion of gases across the respiratory membrane, and that process is the simple diffusion. So we just see the diffusion of oxygen and the carbon dioxide, okay, between the lungs and the bloodstream. So oxygen will be going in and carbon dioxide will be diffused out of the blood. So our correct answer here is D. So we now come to our question 4. The question reads, what is the role of the diaphragm in inhalation? A. It contracts, pulling air into the lungs. B. It relaxes, pushing air out of the lungs. C. It contracts, pushing air out of the lungs. D. It relaxes, pulling air into the lungs. So we know that the diaphragm, it's a muscle, and this muscle helps during the process of breathing in and breathing out. So in inhalation, we are talking about breathing in, taking air into the lungs. So what will happen is that once air has been taken into the lungs, the diaphragm is going to contract. When it contracts, it's going to pull now the air into the into the lungs. So our correct answer here is A. So let us now look at this diagram. So this is the diagram. You can see we have air that is going in. So when this air goes in into the human being, we are going to find that the rib cage is going to expand. These are the rib cages. They are going to expand. Then the rib muscles, they are going to contract. And this diaphragm right here is going to contract so that it allows air to enter into the into the lungs. Okay. So it's the opposite. When we breathe air out, you find that the rib cage gets smaller, then the rib muscles, they will relax, and the diaphragm, what is it going to do? It's going to relax and move upwards, as you can see. So different from here, during inhalation, the diaphragm has gone downwards, so it has become flattened. Okay, so these are some of the points that you must know. So we move on to our question 5. So here is our question 5. Which of the following factors affects the rate of gas exchange? A. Partial pressure difference of gases. B, surface area of the respiratory membrane, C, thickness of the respiratory membrane, D, all of the above. So partial pressure, difference of gases, surface area of the respiratory membrane, thickness of the respiratory membrane, all these are factors that affects the rate of gas exchange. So the correct answer here is C, a D. Let us now move on to our question 6. Our question 6 reads, what is the correct sequence of events in the process of inhalation? So when we take in air, what is the process of events? So just like I have explained on the previous question, when air is absorbed from the atmosphere, what will happen is that the diaphragm is going to contract. Okay, hence the rib gauge will expand so that more air can go into the lungs. Okay, so A, diaphragm contracts, rib gauge expands, air enters the lungs. B, rib gauge expands, diaphragm contracts, air enters the lungs. C, air enters lungs, diaphragm contracts, rib gauge expands. D, rib gauge expands, air enters lungs, diaphragm contracts. So what will happen is that the diaphragm is going to contract, okay, so that the rib gauge will expand. Once the rib gauge expands, the air is going to enter the lungs. So our correct answer here is C, A. We now move on to our next question. Here is our question 7. The question reads, what is the primary waste product of cellular respiration that is eliminated through the lungs? So the primary waste product of cellular respiration that is eliminated through the lungs is the carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide will be diffused out of the blood and then to go into the atmosphere. Okay, so we now move on to our question 8. So this is our question 8. The question reads, what is the condition characterized by a decrease in the number of alveoli or damage to the alveolar walls? So we are looking for a condition that will be characterized by the decrease in the number of alveoli, okay, or damage to the alveolar walls. A, emphysema, B, asthma, C, bronchitis, D, pneumonia. So here we understand that when you look at emphysema is a chronic lung disease that causes shortness of breath. Okay, so it makes individuals to be having challenges when it comes to to breathe. So this condition is characterized by the destruction of the alveoli. Okay, so just like I've said, the alveoli are tiny air sacs in the lungs that are responsible for oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange. So once these alveoli are destroyed, once they are distracted, it makes it very difficult for the lungs to efficiently take in oxygen and expel carbon dioxide. Okay, so the correct answer here is emphysema, which is on A. So it's the one that is going to cause or to characterize a decrease in the number of alveoli and damage to the alveolar walls. So some of the common causes of emphysema, we are looking at smoking cigarettes. Okay, apart from that, also exposure to second-hand smoke. If you are not smoking, maybe you are near people who are smoking, you become a passive smoker. Also air pollution, chemical fumes, and certain occupational dust. In most rare cases, emphysema can also be caused by genetic conditions. Okay, so we have answered our question 8. We now move on to our next question. So here is our question 9. The question reads, what is the role of the respiratory center in the brain? A, controls the rate and depth of breathing. B, regulates blood pressure. C, maintains body temperature. D, controls heart rate. So the role of the respiratory center in the brain is just to control the rate and the depth of breathing. So our correct answer here is A. So we now move on to our last question, which is our question 10. So here is our question. The question reads, which of the following factors can impair gas exchange in the lungs? A, smoking. B, air pollution. C, respiratory infections. D, all of the above. So smoking, air pollution, and respiratory diseases or infections, all these can cause gas exchange in the lungs. They can cause a distraction in the gas exchange in in the lungs. So the correct answer here is C. It's a D. Okay, so we've now come to the end of our session. Thank you so much, everybody, for having time to view this content. This has been your presenter, Mr. Mlenga. Bye bye.